You've got 500 quote unquote big blinds, over 500 big blinds effective, and you flop middle set.
Yeah.
And the other guy
Yeah.
too, 700. So, I mean, I'm starting to.
Rematch the stack pretty deep. The button has 700, small blind has 1650, and then I'm in the big blind, I have 2200.
So, small blind has 1650. Who has 700?
The button does.
Button has 700, and you cover.
Yeah.
Hero covers. Okay. Sounds good.
All right. So it's gonna fold to the button who limps. This guy, he plays a lot of hands. He calls down super, super light. The guy in the small blind, I had just stacked with aces, and I had just folded queens face up. So just kind of a little background about him, and he's a bit laggy, just from what I noticed playing with him. So it folds to the button who limps. The small blind, he makes it 15, and I 3-bet in the big blind to 50. 10 of diamonds, 10 of clubs.
Okay. Just two blinds, right? Just straight
What
one
was
three.
that?
Just two blinds, like just 1-3 in the blinds.
Yeah, just
Okay.
1-3.
So button
Yeah.
limp, small blind raised to 15. You 3-bet to 50. I like it. In the big blind.
Yep.
Okay.
And then they both call.
Yep. Both call.
So we're 150 to the flop. The flop comes jack of clubs, 10 of hearts, 6 of diamonds.
Jack of clubs, 10 of hearts, 6 of diamonds. You flop middle set. So right off the bat here on the live stream, two straight calls where the button has basically, well, in this case, the button has Cole called a 3-bet. In the previous hand, the guy raised and called, but not uncommon to see in live poker. Button basically limp calling. So Jack 10-6, and the small blind, who's the initial opener. I mean, you're really deep with this guy. You've got 500 quote unquote big blinds, over 500 big blinds effective, and you flop middle set.
Yeah.
And the other guy too, 700. So, I mean, I'm starting to put a lot of money in here. And what I would say is that I don't even think you need to. First of all, you know, traditionally in single raise pots, you're allowed to bet large on these boards anyways, on the two high connected boards with a low card, but especially like against what a typical range would be in this scenario, you're not going to get the action from small pairs anyways. Like if a guy limp calls with 5s or 7s. So, I mean, if the pot's 150 here, I might even just bet 150. You're going to get Jack X to call, and King Queen off is another hand that people play. I mean, really, like, what hand is going to say like call for 50 to 75 that's not going to call for 150 at this level? That's my thought right off the bat here. It's great that you have middle set. It would be different if you had top set and blocked all the top pairs.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you there. I don't think the button would call that much, just knowing him as a player, but I think the small blind is for sure calling that much. I didn't quite bet that much. I bet 60 on the flop.
Well, that's not.
Yeah.
I hope you realize what I mean. That's what I think that, yeah, I would just go huge here. Okay. So you bet 60.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I do. Call. So, that's to be expected.
Button calls, small blind calls.
Yeah.
And again, I mean, it's still, even with 60, I mean, it's possible that 60 might get called by like 8s from the button, where if you had gone like 150, maybe the button doesn't call, but it is what it is. So the pot's 180, and then plus 150 is like 330, right?
Yeah, pot's 330.
Okay.
And the turn's going to come the ace of hearts.
Ace of hearts, so it puts out a backdoor heart draw, and of course, king, queen now, which is something that is very, very possible. I think maybe even in both holdings, although you would think the button would raise with king, queen, but the small blind definitely can have king, queen, and probably has them all, even though he's not really supposed to be defending king, queen off, but I'm sure it happens at 1-3. Again, this is similar to the last hand here too, where it's not necessarily the best card for you in the sense of for value, because you might see some of the Jack X sort of fold out here.
Okay.
Ace King and Ace Queen, it's possible they're still going to call, but I don't know if I go now. I'm trying to get called by like King Jack, Queen Jack, and if you go nuts here, I don't know if those hands are going to call off. So I might go like, say, 175 to 200, something like that.
Yeah, so that's where those two things are mainly my questions. My sizing on the turn and river, I just don't like at all. And then obviously the river decision is kind of my main question here. So I totally agree. 175, 200 is what I would have done in hindsight.
What did you do?
I bet 125 on the turn.
So small blind checks and hero bets 125. And then what happens?
They both again call.
Here's the thing. I mean, I'm talking about, so button calls and the small blind calls. Well, that kind of makes me think that neither player really has king queen here all that much. So that's a good thing, especially with the backdoor. I mean,
Right.
it's possible. So if neither player has
Well, and
king,
I saw the small blind a lot throughout the night. He loved to check turn raise for value. Just multiple times when I saw his showdowns, it was every time check raise turn for value.
right. I mean, and that's
which, again,
and that's what you're going to see a lot of too, because, you know, a lot of times it will get wet at the end. You've put in 375, so it looks like the pot is maybe 705. But just one quick thing. Again, it's not, you know, it's a little similar to the last caller too. I'm not saying that it's necessarily like betting 125. It's not necessarily a mistake in the sense of, it's not a mistake like calling a raise with like queen 10 off pre-flop against a UTG raiser. It's just probably not going to yield the most money against what we would consider typical ranges in the way that people play in a live 1-3 game. This line of 61-25.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, if you could even throw this into some sort of optimal solver, it very well might be that an ace is reflected as a check on the turn with a set, although you can bet call because of the amount of king queens that could be out there. And Jack would actually be a much worse case scenario for you here if you had flop top set. And what I mean by that is just that when you look at the texture of this turn card, you're blocking a lot of the top pairs, and then you start to think about, it's just going to be more likely that someone has king queen here. I feel like if you have Jack versus, say, like if you have 10-10. But all right, so Jack of clubs, 10 of hearts, 6 of diamonds turns the ace of hearts. Let's get to the end here. Pot 705,
Yep.
right?
Yep. Again, small blind checks the river, which is the 9 of spades.
So the river is the 9 of spades, so that doesn't change anything, right? Except for maybe 7-8 of hearts, which would have been like a bottom end gut shot that would have turned a heart draw. That's it.
Which ended up being what the button had, actually. He didn't even have 7-8 of hearts. He had
wait a minute. Don't say anything.
Ridiculous.
Wait a minute.
Anyway, sorry.
So
yeah, I don't really like my river sizing here either. I bet 250.
Okay, so small blind checks.
Yeah.
And you decide to go and you bet 250. Why don't you like your river sizing? Again, like what I mean, these guys are usually going to be capped here. And I mean, it's just unlikely that you're going to run into a 2-pair type of holding here, I feel like, on this type of run out. So you really want to target like an ace queen type of hand. Maybe you could go a little bit larger, maybe like 400 up to 400, but it's not. I mean, this sizing is probably the best sizing, I think, that's been used so far here throughout the hand. So you bet 250.
Yep.
Okay.
So this is kind of where it gets fun. So the button folds.
Okay.
And then not instantly, because I feel like if it was instantly, I probably would have snapped him off. But he waits about 5 or 10 seconds, and then he shoves all in. And so I bet 250. He shoves for 1165 more, which is going to make the pot 2370 and 1165 for me to call. So I'm getting like just over 2-1 to call him here.
So you bet 250 into 705, and he shoves for basically what is like 1400 total. So you said it was like 23 and change, 2365.
Yep. 2370 is
1165 to call.
Yep.
Well, now again, like in the theory of this is that, well, you know, obviously you're supposed to have some hands to call with. Would I make a crazy fold here? When I can see that 7-8 is out there that beats me, and also king queen, And the person who has king queen here might think it's just the stone cold nuts. Well, usually you would see a reflection of, now the small blind is the preflop raiser. Normally a slow play here would consist of king queen of hearts, where they're just like, I can't lose to anything here, I'm going to slow play, so that's only one combo. Usually you would have
That's
seen
exactly what I said.
you would have seen like a king queen type of thing check raised, but now 7-8 is a very easy check raise here too, although it's another one combo. You're getting 2-1. I don't know if I don't, at this level for this amount, I don't know how commonly the stacks get this big in this game, but that's a hell of a move to throw in like a bluff. And I just don't think there's an overplay here going on. Like, I don't think the guy's check raising the river with ace jack all in. So if you take out the overplays, then you're like, well, is this person bluffing at 1-3 for their entire stack? I got to be honest with you, I can see folding here. I really can. I really can see folding here. I mean, you've played it for value the whole way, and river check raises are so under bluffed here, especially at this level. Even getting 2-1,
Yeah, and I kind of took all that into the consideration. I think he can overplay, like this specific player. I think he could overplay. I think in general it's a fold. And I kind of took all that into account. I did end up folding.
Okay.
He did not show his hand, but he voiced that he had ace and the king of hearts. And was like, I thought we had the same hand. So
ace and the king of hearts. Ace and the king of hearts.
He had ace king off with the king of hearts. Yeah.
Until I see that, I don't believe it. Now let me ask you one quick question, because I tried to cover up what you said because I didn't want to ruin the hand. But did you say that the button had 7-8 of hearts?
Yeah. So I don't think he had hearts even. He was holding his hand up when I bet the turn, so people at the other end of the table could see it. And I had a buddy that was sitting down at the end of the table.
But he called the turn, right? He called the turn.
He did. He called the turn. So, yeah, this guy will just call anything.
Wait a minute. But he made a straight on the river, though.
I don't know why he's calling 7-8 there to fold.
I think both these guys are lying to you. Definitely the guy in the button. He's not calling 7-8 and then folding the river when he makes a straight for 250.
Right.
So just a little thing. But I mean, these spots are so underbluffed like at this level. But that's a good fold. I think so, and I think the guy's full of shit, as you will often see in these spots. So anyways, I appreciate the call.